Välkommen till Podgeek.
En podd om att podda.
Varmt välkommen till Podgeek. Idag har vi ett avsnitt som till stora delar är på engelska. För Lena, hon har intervjuat en annan poddare från USA. Vi har ju ett format där vi kör Hur gör du? Där vi intervjuar poddare som får berätta hur de tänker och hur de gör och hur de jobbar helt enkelt. Idag får vi lära känna Cynthia Bemis Abrams som driver podden Advanced TV Herstory. Vi får reda på lite grann hur hon gör sin research. Varför hon oftast väljer bort att lyssna på poddar inom sitt eget område. Och hur hon har tänkt när hon har valt att publicera sin podd i block där hon släpper ett visst antal avsnitt samtidigt på ett och samma tema. Det är lite grann så jag gör själv när jag gör min engelska podd. Jag har pratat om det tidigare i Podgeek. Så att Lena, hon har spelat in en double ender, det vill säga hon har suttit i Sverige och spelat in, och Cynthia har suttit i Chicago och spelat in sin fil. Och sen har vi då mixat ihop detta här på hemmaplan. Så håll till godo. Nu ska vi lära oss hur man gör på andra sidan Atlanten.
Hello, Cynthia.
Hey, Lena.
How are you?
I am great here in Chicago, Illinois, United States of America.
Thank you for agreeing to being on my podcast with me. What is the name of your podcast?
For 3.5 years, I have been producing Advanced TV Herstory.
And what is that? What is it?
It's evolving, Lena. It's very exciting. It is a very focused look at TV women and how it is that, in America at least, television really is the opportunity for representation for those who want to see themselves and inspired to be more, aspire to be more. And women in TV still are very underrepresented, and even those speaking roles and the amount of time that they're on TV, it all becomes very precious. So one of the things I like to do is celebrate the great roles in the great TV series that featured women, whether they were smart or tough characters or just a really great series, as well as discussing the careers and legacies of the women both in front of the camera and behind the camera. And lately have been getting more into talking about how we saw and how stories and social issues have been related over the years, whether it's about abortion or the Me Too movement of sexual harassment and sexual violence, and then also Time's Up, which has to do more with parity and pay and power.
So could you give me an example of some of the women that you have focused on?
Sure.
That we would know here in Sweden, maybe?
Some real popular episodes are about the more well-known women and that brief interest and a brief intersection of what their life on TV was about. And I keep within that framework, and I'm always thrilled when I can sort of slip something in. So like, for instance, Diana Ross in 1983 had a relationship with Showtime, which was one of the first premium TV networks in American cable. And so in 1983, she underwrote her concert in Central Park, which was actually a fundraiser for a playground. And it was supposed to be televised worldwide on Showtime. And so in July 1983, it was a very, very humid, hot day in New York City. And the heavens opened up and it was downpour, but they kept the cameras rolling. And so it's this incredible, it's now, you can find it on DVD. You can see pieces of it on YouTube. It's a great story. I also talk about Lucille Ball, because while we know her as I Love Lucy, there was a business side to Lucille Ball and a very private side. And what I have learned is that these women, many of them now long past, they would write memoirs or autobiographies, but they never really were very heartfelt. They didn't reveal too much more than what had already been stated in other interviews. And so sometimes you have to read between the lines, and sometimes you're just sort of left asking questions, understanding how, as we continue to know more about working conditions, things must have been. And she was just a very fascinating, humble woman.
So how do you research this?
Usually with a smile on my face. It's books, it's online articles, it's academic journals, YouTube. I believe it or not, I don't listen to other podcasts about TV shows because I am very mindful of the fact that anytime anybody is either putting out research or putting out hypotheses or theories, they kind of own that, even in podcasts, we now are owning a copyright of what it is that we have just produced. And my greatest fear is that I would hear something and never be able to attribute it to where it was that I heard it. If I can see it either in print or in video, it's part of my notes. It's part of my process. So those are and there's plenty. There is so much documentation out there and information. And then I take some of that information and conduct interviews. And that has been great because I've gotten to meet some fascinating women and even a few fascinating men.
I've also seen that you have started to release your podcast in seasons or a few at a time, or?
Yes. So initially I was as undisciplined as a podcaster can be, in part because researching and developing a script and then producing the whole thing sometimes would take me a long time. And over time, I was sort of fine with that irregular schedule, but recognized that one way to grow listenership is to go to a regular schedule. So about a year ago, I shifted to every other week. And I found that while it might be a recommendation, kind of sucked the life. It sucked the fun out of podcasting for me. And all of a sudden, it became much more of a chore. And I didn't have the time to do the kind of research that I really liked to do, that I was able to do back when I was less disciplined. So toward the end of last year, we decided we were going to go after bigger themes and then do multiple episodes based on that one theme that would get produced and distributed all at the same time. And so we just did our first, in a sense, our second season. Our first season was practically 100 episodes, and our second season is only 5
so far.
And it's about Judy Garland, who is also somebody that many of your listeners might recognize.
So, what is your equipment? I know that you've got a studio because I've seen it on pictures.
I have a closet that is wrapped on the inside with acoustic foam tile. So we recently moved and had a spare closet, and I am thrilled. It contains, it contains a bookshelf that has more foam tile placed in it. And then my microphone is a Rode. It's got a USB plug-in, not another kind, because it goes directly into my computer. My headphones, I don't know, are audio, I don't know, somebody or another. And that's kind of it. I totally record it just straight onto my computer and then ultimately send it off to a very talented Jen Eads, who is my audio editor.
She's
/
great.
wizard.
She's
she
great.
Is.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Jen Eads of Brassy Broadcasting.
Definitely. She's my editor as well. So we love her dearly.
Don't edit this, Jen.
So what is your advice to someone who's starting up a podcast today?
My advice, I think my advice today is even what it would have been when I sort of blindly went into this process. And that is make the decision that you're doing this because you really love the subject matter, because that subject matter is going to be what keeps you going through the learning curve. It's going to be what connects you to your audience and the belief that what it is that you have to say and present in this special audio format, that you are the best person to do it, and that those listeners just need to find it. And they might find it this year, they might find it next year. But if you love it and it's a little unique and nobody else is saying what you're saying, then go for it and you will learn and people will help you and you will meet some fascinating, wonderful people who share your belief that knowledge is, with all this technology, knowledge is available to anyone.
Amen to that, I would say.
And I say that the audio format thing, it's tough. But 15 years ago, people would have said, "Oh, I'm going to write a blog." Okay. And there are some people who can write. And then there would have been some people who would have said, "That intimidates me. I can't write," or "I can't write consistently about something for 2 years or 10 years." And we rapidly got away from the blog because writing has changed so much. And now what we're learning is that audio has changed. And it isn't just the big public radio stations or the BBC or the CBC that can produce good audio documentaries and dramas. We can do it as well. You and I can conduct interviews, and we didn't go to journalism class.
No. And in a way, I think it's democracy.
Absolutely.
That anyone can do it. Mm-hmm. And we also have to keep in mind that also the dark side can do what we do. Mm-hmm. Which isn't that good, I think.
The power of the human voice, it does have, we've seen over history the power of the human voice and what it can do to make people believe things. And that connection is one that I think podcasters, if you're serious about podcasting, you're not just doing it as a something to do with a friend on a Friday night. But if you're serious about getting your message out, then you take that and you understand the power of your own words and the power of your voice. And that should be something that grows in a positive fashion. I think out of it, people generally become better public speakers because of their podcast.
I agree. So how do you market your podcast? How do you get people to become subscribers?
Ineffectively. I am in social. So my background actually is in public relations. And so I do like the in-person experience as much as anybody. And I'm always looking for opportunities to just sort of do in-person marketing. I have business cards. I have something that I call a show card, which lists some of the more well-known topics that I've done shows on in the past episodes. Online, within social media, I find that Twitter is the one that connects with people the best. We are trying to transition over to Instagram a bit. So I know that I have, hundreds of subscribers, thousands maybe, I'm not sure, because that's part of the that's part of what we don't know in podcasting, truly, is who your subscribers are. My listenership, though, is worldwide. I have, France and Sweden, thank you, and China and Brazil, as well as across the United States and Canada. So people are listening. My Anita Hill, so I did a whole presentation I did a whole episode on the Anita Hill testimony. And back in 1991, when she when she testified before the United States Senate Judiciary Committee, her initial statement was about 22 minutes long. And it's a very powerful statement. And her whole presentation, just in that statement alone, that was when we first got to understand and see and think about sexual harassment in the workplace and how it was going to pan out for the Supreme Court. So I took that 22-minute initial statement, and then I broke it down. And within that experience, and it came to about an hour and 5 minutes, I was able to create the context for people even not in the United States or people who aren't that familiar with government to understand the role of this committee and who was on the committee and why it was that there was even an opening on the Supreme Court and what the relevance is for an appointment on the Supreme Court, that it is one for life. And so I did that, and that is an episode that has really, I think almost more have been downloaded outside the United States than in the United States, because it's such a basic approach to understanding an important moment in what I call TV herstory, because the importance of that whole hearing was not so much that it was a group of men as it was one woman testifying before a group of men.
Isn't it great? I mean, from time to time, I realize that people around the world are listening to what I broadcast from my wardrobe. That is so amazing. And
it is.
If you just think about it, I could never gather as many people every other week in one place as that our people are listening to what I have to say on my podcast. I think it's mind-blowing sometimes.
And you are creating this important archive of so many other voices. You are single-handedly, mining the networks of people, the adjacent industries to shipping in your shipping podcast. And so you're bringing in voices that otherwise wouldn't even have a chance to be heard. These aren't people who are going to sit down and write a blog and try to develop a network. So what you're doing is you're in a sense a tent pole. You are a little higher than everybody else, and everybody is now starting to see you in the field saying, there's a collection of important information that is found right here.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let's see how that develops.
Yeah.
Do you
I find it. I do find it fascinating.
Do you listen to other podcasts? Do you listen to any podcasts on other topics?
Yes, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I occasionally listen to She podcasts because it is done by women that we both know, and it's always important to kind of check in on the world of podcasting. There are controversies every once in a while that it's just sort of better. It's good to understand what that means for the kind of work we're trying to do at an independent level. We don't have a company, I don't have a company backing me up, and I don't have people who are sort of monitoring the industry itself. So that's something that I do, and Jen does as well. I also listen to a very fun 3-woman silly show called Worst Friends Forever, which these young ladies are young enough to be my kids, but they're fun, and they're talking about TV and film and, kind of what they're up to in their own professional careers. And then The Intuitive Woman, which is also done by a woman we know, Tina Conroy. And that is a little bit more spiritual. It's integrated alternative therapies for relaxation and mind-body growth, I guess. And then there is another women's-based podcast called What's Her Name? And that is delivered by 2 women professors. And it is a very fun, important look at women that history has largely passed by. There's a little bit here, there's a little bit there, and they take as much as they can grab and then really present us lessons that are designed to also be integrated into classrooms. So What's Her Name podcast is it's very well produced, and they have just been doing it for like a year, and it's exciting to see them grow. Yeah.
Well, I think we have sort of got your corner of the world covered now, because you have told us what podcasts you're listening to, and that describes you as a person. I think I'm the same. I've got other podcasts that I listen to, but if I could tell you about them, most of them are in Swedish, but then again, you would know who I am.
Well, you are just a very connected, very ambitious role model to so many, and it's a pleasure to know you and to have actually met you in person this summer.
Yeah, maybe we should be transparent about that. We met in person at Podcast Movement actually this summer.
Yes, yeah. We and about 2,500 other podcasters. It was a very small group.
Yeah, but we had good fun, and the people that we know from our online activities, we met in person, and you took our photo when we left in our cabriolet. that iconic picture of you and Karen in the convertible. Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, I think I will share that one with our listeners. I have to do that. I think it was great.
Terrific. Hey, I think I have a picture of you and me together, though.
Oh, good.
I'll go back and see if I can find it.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
All right.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you for sharing. And,
you're welcome.
Hope to see you soon again.
thanks for having me on. And is this the right time for me to tell listeners that they can find Advanced TV Herstory at tvherstory.com and most places where they might find podcasts?
Yes, and I will put up a link in the show notes.
You're awesome.
Tack för att du lyssnar på Podgeek. Glöm inte att söka upp oss via sociala medier. Där kan du diskutera med oss och andra som lyssnar.
Vi finns på Instagram, Twitter och Facebook.
Alla adresserna hittar du på podgeek.se.